Well, good evening. Wow, big turnout. Not just for you, not for the book, I think. It's lovely to have you all here, and thank you to Annie. I realized actually this morning why it's so important to be introduced properly. I was paying my parking attendant, and he asked me in the conversation, you know, as you have, what am I doing today? And I said, well, I'm doing a book launch. And he said, oh, what's the book about? And I said, it's stories about Madiba. And he suddenly looked at me with a lot more interest. And then he gave me my change, and as I walked away, I heard him saying behind me, very nice to meet you, Miss Zelda Francie. Which of course just illustrates that all white women, Afrikaner women look the same, right? So, thank you for the introduction. People who know me will maybe not be that surprised that I decided not to do a conventional book launch tonight. Big surprise. We thought we'd rather make it a celebration of Madiba, given that it's his birthday, and that's the cupcakes and the wine and not the usual soggy sandwiches. But before we go further in the program, maybe I can just say a few words about the book itself. As you heard from Annie, I met Madiba the first time in 1990. Meeting Madiba simply took your breath away. Ask anybody who ever met him. And that's what happened to me in 1990 as well. And it changed the course of my life completely. And so over the years I was privileged enough to meet Madiba a few times. And so I had these lovely stories about the meetings with him. And I wrote about them, as I said, in my book last year, that they also published. And afterwards loads of people came to me and told me they liked the stories, but they also had a Madiba story. And I was so amazed that so many individuals, ordinary people, had met Madiba. And often in the most unexpected ways, often not planned at all. And that seemed to have been when Madiba's greatest greatness shone through. So I thought, wouldn't it be really sad if those stories aren't really captured somewhere? I mean, we know about the Beckhams and the Annie Lennoxes, but I mean, how boring are those stories in the end? I mean, what can Madiba really say to David Beckham, right? Ah, Mr. Beckham, how's the soccer doing, you know? And always we read that he kind of got confused from time to time and called the band members from Queen the Queen. But when Madiba was engaging with ordinary people, ordinary South Africans, his greatness just seemed to shine through. What was amazing about these stories were that they were never, or almost never, spin doctors involved, never photographers there. It was just ordinary people bumping into him. So the stories are amazing. They are so different. There's a story, for example, about a young man who Madiba gave a helping hand to get his surfing gear into a lift in a hotel. There are stories about children who came to his gate and was taken in. He didn't know them, and had lunch with him. The Arch wrote a lovely story in there. There's a very moving story about an old Afrikaner general who on the day of Madiba's inauguration, he got out of his car. His security went into a blind panic, as they often did when they were with Madiba, and he just did his own thing. And he walked up to the general, shook his hand and said, "General, today you are also my general." And the storyteller tells how Madiba's word and handshake, this very hardened Afrikaans general, just disintegrated and started crying, tears dripping on the floor. And there are stories about Madiba phoning terminally ill journalists in hospital just to wish them well. It is simply extraordinary. But what also struck me as I went through the stories were that there were amazing characteristics and values which really we all, and especially maybe our politicians in South Africa but across the world, should really internalize a little bit more, and the world will be a much better place. So as you will see, the book is divided into values and characteristics. I don't editorialize about them, I just have them there. And I think maybe, it can be a little bit of a guide to all of us about how to behave in the future. Ultimately, this is not my book. This book belongs to all the amazing contributors, more than 140 of them, who contributed to this book. This book belongs to all of you. And it is in the memory of our great Madiba, who I know we all love so much, and who, without exception, changed so many of our lives, as you will see in the stories that we all wrote about. So that's all I wanted to say. But I just want to continue a little bit by saying that, as you know, Madiba had this incredible love for children and young people. And he had such faith in the future of South Africa because he believed in our young people. On a daily basis, as you all know, we hear horrible stories, we hear negative stories, but every now and then, a person and a story comes across, and we know that they encapsulate everything Madiba really believed in and that he was hoping for the future. And one of these people is this young lady called Annalisa. Did I say it? Sorry, I practiced it the whole day and I still get it wrong. And Annalisa was discovered at 14 for her amazing singing voice. Those of you who listen to Cape Talk will know her story. She's also been in the Cape Times recently. And Annalisa she's now only 16. You're going to think she's older when she starts singing. She's only 16 and recently moved to Wynberg Girls High thanks to a sponsor because she wants to go and study in UCT or even abroad. So I thought it would be really nice if Annalisa would be kind enough tonight to sing for us, to give us the celebration in honor of Madiba. She's going to sing one now and then after the Archbishop one again. Thank you. Thank you, Annalisa. She's going to sing one more song for us to end tonight. So, one person who will never be mistaken by the parking attendants for somebody else is our beloved Archbishop Tutu. I think you will all agree with me that Archbishop Tutu remains the moral lighthouse for us all in South Africa. And no matter how difficult it is, and how lonely it must get at times, and how exhausting it must get, he remains our voice of conscience. And I know, not having lived abroad for a long time, not only here, but across the world. I adore the Arch. He calls me Osie. Can I just say that for the record? And people, Afrikaans people will understand why that is so funny. And I was so incredibly thankful when Archbishop Tutu, in his very busy schedule, agreed to say a few words here tonight. So, much.
I have a very loud voice. You want it? I like using my hands. Wow! Come here and let me hug you. It's a fantastic gift. Thank you, God. Did you see the lovely cartoon soon after Madiba died? He arrives in heaven and St. Peter takes out his cell phone and does a selfie. I'm just thinking, we do have a crazy country, you know. Just think back several years ago, there was this man, very smart man, who said some quite extraordinary things, like, what's the point of teaching blacks mathematics and science? What you need is to teach them enough English and Afrikaans so they can understand instructions by their white madam or boss. He said some lovely things like, stopping school feeding for blacks who needed it desperately. And his justification? Well, we can't feed all of them, so we shouldn't feed any. Imagine if the world had said, no, we can't cure everyone who has TB, so we won't even try to cure those we can cure. And you know, he appeared on television with a lovely smile, describing this thing that had done all these extraordinary things to blacks. He said, well, you could actually describe it in another way. You could describe it as good neighborliness. Don't you think we are actually extraordinary? That in 1994, well, slightly before this, a Verwoerd should become a member of the ANC. We really are thoroughly. I mean, if that could happen, and you look, so far as I can make out, the sky remained firmly in place. I mean, the sky did not fall in. Isn't that quite extraordinary? That someone with this kind of, what do you call it now in English? All right. With this kind of jingles, or I let us say something like genealogy, Onscan, coming from that they could be a member of the ANC and that the ANC, well then, could accept that. I mean, no one else in the world would believe that that was possible. We are thoroughly crazy. and then, just to show the world that you appoint a Verwoerd to represent an ANC government. Oh yes, I know you're supposed to be representing the country. Maretta, it is that you are representing here. And that is the government that appoints an ANC government that I think the explanation about our country is that God has a very soft spot for us. Well, I mean, when you look at happenings, you say, my wife says, oh no God, we don't want your special caring for us, you know. It could happen only in this country that someone who didn't even have a matric certificate it could happen only in this country. No, we want to celebrate. We are celebrating. We are in no. It's at a moment such as this that it is good to remember that this country produced some great people. I mean, just now we were thinking about Nadine Gordimer, you know, minute little woman, but fantastic. I mean, we really are an incredible country, you know. We're an incredible country. Even when there are those that try to drag us down, we are an amazing country. And only we could really have shown the world that it is possible for enemies to become friends. I mean, I'm not giving a push for your other you, but I mean, where else in the world would you have a much loved and incredible former president have as his best aide African Messi? I mean, people will say, you said white people are not nice to you. The closest person to Madiba, apart from Grasa, was Zelda. Please explain that. En ze is nooit Engels sprekend nie. An Afrikaner. So it's wonderful that you've got this. There we go now. Now I'm common to the thing that this is a fantastic anthology of ordinary people. Actually, of course, you know something? There are no ordinary people. No one is ordinary. Because each one of us, whether we know it or not, are just incredible things. A God carrier. There's no one else like you. Anyway, you are a masterpiece in the making. Totally unique. My wife sent me a birthday card once for my birthday, which is the very least that you can expect from your spouse. And it had a diamond zone couple on the outside, and it said, "We have a beautiful and unique relationship." And just, I'm still trimming myself. Oh, beautiful. And then inside it says, "I'm beautiful and you are certainly unique." But look, every single one of us is unique. There's no one, not even your identical twin. And only you can love God as only you can love God. And yeah, Madiba helped us realize that we were, each one of us, special. You know, I mean, they say there are things, they call them VIPs. There are not very many, well, thank goodness, I mean, with all the blue lights and all that, it's just as well. There are not many VIPs, but every single one of us is a VSP, a very special person. And I think that is what Madiba had the capacity to draw out of each one of us. That in his presence we realized that we were special. And thank you for putting together Guru Macy, this anthology of books, and I hope it gets you a few more dollars into your bank account. Thank you.
It reminds me, actually, there's a story in the book that Jovial Rantau, the editor, the newspaper editor, wrote about Madiba's, the whole story about Madiba getting married, the best kept secret in the world, that he wasn't getting married and that kind of thing. And then he also tells about a subsequent birthday, and of course also then a wedding anniversary. And Madiba, that's all right, I'm just drinking my water. Mine's got whiskey and ice.
I'm just checking that it is water.
And he talks about Madiba complaining that he didn't get enough kisses on his birthday. Have a look at that story. It's incredibly tender and incredibly beautiful, but how then he gets Rasa to kiss him in front of the press, but doesn't allow the press to take photographs. So it's a beautiful, beautiful story.